Hello, all you wonderful people out there. This is the host of the podcast that you are about to listen to. But before we get started, I want to ask you for a favor. I know many of you out there have already liked and shared this podcast on Facebook, and thank you very much for doing so, and please continue to do so. But let's not forget about another way to help this podcast grow, and that way is called word of mouth. That's right, before there was Facebook, there was something called word of mouth. And here's how that works. You listen to the show, then you tell a family member about the show, and then you tell a friend, then you tell a coworker, and then maybe you tell somebody that you go to church with. I really want to grow this show, and I will take all the help I can get. So thank you very much for listening, and now let's get the show started.
Cyberspace astronauts, are you ready to be entertained with pointless jibber-jabber and senseless small talk? If so, then you have come to the right place. It's the Todd Cook Show, starring Todd Cook, and featuring music by local and national artists. Now, broadcasting from his garage, here is Todd Cook.
Hi there, yes. It is I. Thank you very much. I am here. You are here. I am talking. You are listening. This is the Todd Cook Show. Thank you very much for spending the time with me today to listen to this program. My very own podcast. I couldn't be more excited. All right, everybody. On today's show, I want to talk to you about a few different things. One thing is about the fact that it seems like every kid that you have, every time you have a new child, it's like it's your first child all over again. And I'll explain that here in a little bit. I also want to talk a little bit about TV shows and how they take these strange liberties to do things on their shows that make no sense whatsoever. And I got music by Scott Allen Nost. And then I'm also going to tell you about a little trip I took to a convenience store yesterday that, well, as I say, I'm betting, although the day I was there, nothing extraordinary happened, I'm thinking something kind of strange happens there frequently, and I'll explain that here in a little bit. But let's go ahead and get started. This is episode 3-7 of the Todd Cook Show. That means season 3, episode 7 of the Todd Cook Show. It's been a while since I have done a podcast. I think it's a couple weeks. Things are kind of busy around here, but that's all right. We'll get one in right now. Let's start this off about whenever you have a kid, it's like it's your first kid. Because every piece of knowledge that you learned from the first child seems to get swept away, and you forget everything that you learned, and it's like you're starting all over. And I talked about this a little bit with my daughter when she was born back in October. She's now just turned 6 months old. But how in the we had to have a C-section, and in the operating room there, after they came around the corner and handed my daughter to me, and it was like. It was the first time I'd ever held a baby all of a sudden. And I got 2 other kids. And maybe it's because we have them too far apart. We have a 7-year-old, a 3-year-old, and now a 6-month-old. So maybe we should have had them a little closer together, and maybe all that knowledge that we learned from each baby would not have been swept out of our memory by the time we had the next one. Because with this new one, my wife and I have been finding ourselves a lot asking questions that we don't know the answer to. And we should, because we do have other kids. I remember, like we just started feeding Shelby, cereal. She still gets her bottles and, formula, but we've started adding some cereal to her diet. And I remember we were trying to make this decision. We're like, what age do we start giving a baby cereal? And we looked at each other with a blank stare. I'm like, I don't know. I no idea. Can't remember. And then, when did they start getting teeth? I don't know. I remember we had on that one, we had to go and there's a picture that we have of our oldest son shortly after he started getting teeth. And we had to figure out when that picture was taken. We realized it was around Easter. And, he was born in September, so we did the math and everything and kind of figured it out. But when it came to the cereal, where I was like, well, I think they got to start kind of sitting up by themselves first. Oh, yeah, that sounds right. So when do they do that? I don't know. No idea. And then what about being burped? Right now, after when the baby's little and you give them their bottle, you got to burp them afterwards. When they're real little, you got to burp them halfway. When they're not even done with the bottle yet, you burp them. And then you burp them again when they are done with the bottle. And so we're wondering, maybe Shelby's at the age now where she doesn't really need to be burped, because sometimes you put her up there, you'll get a burp. Sometimes you really don't, and it's never really that significant. She seems fine. There's been times, where she'll drink a bottle, and we're like, did we burp her? I don't know. Did you burp her? I don't know. So when do you stop burping a kid? And it's again, me and my wife, our third kid, we look at each other like, I don't know. How about, when she, what age will she be when she starts crawling? I don't know. 3 months, 7 months, 9 months? Will she be a year old? I don't know. We try to remember when the other two boys started walking, and neither one of them ever crawled really. They would scoot a little bit around the floor, but they never really crawled. They went straight from just being able to sit up and to standing up and walking, pretty much. We never really had a crawler. So maybe this one, and that'll be something else. Maybe that'll be a brand new experience for us to have a baby that crawls around a little bit. But you really do. It's like, I don't think it would matter how many kids you have. Well, maybe if you're like the Duggars and you got like 30 kids, that family that's on TLC, and you got it's not 30. I shouldn't exaggerate. It's only 20. But I'm pretty sure they probably retain a little bit of information, from each child, and they're probably pros at it now. But for me and my wife, for whatever reason, it was like starting over. When will they do this? I don't know. When are they going to do that? I don't know. So, you think maybe on the first few kids, we should have taken the time maybe to write a little diary or something. And I think we might have started doing that, and like everybody does, you start writing down, different milestones in the baby's life, but at some point you forget to do it, or you don't want to do it anymore. You get tired of doing it, and then at some point you forget where you put the diary at in the first place, and so all everything that you learn just seems to go away. But if we had them a little closer together, maybe we had, like I originally suggested, it'd be nice if we just had like triplets. Or quadruplets, so we just get it all done at once. Raise them all at the same time. They all growing through the same stages in their lives at the same time. That would have made things a lot easier. Well, okay, it probably would have made it easier. It would have made some things easier, but other things a lot harder. So maybe if anybody's out there and maybe you're having your first kid coming soon, try to take some notes. It might help, because you'll be surprised what you forget. And with that, I'm going to take my first little short break here. When I come back, I'm going to talk to you about TV show, but don't go anywhere, anybody. You're listening to The Todd Cook Show, and I'll be back right after this.
Hey, all you Wichitonians. Hey, everybody from the Wichita area. Have you ever had car problems? Have you ever slid into a ditch? Have you ever needed a tow? Don't waste your time looking for a tow company that you might not be able to trust. Call B&B Towing at 316-214-4021. It is a locally owned family business that can help you. So if you have a car that needs towed or repaired or both, call him. Or if you have a car in a ditch that needs a winch, call Cheyenne Brown at B&B Towing, 316-214-4021. He's a 20-year veteran of the United States Air Force. That's B&B Towing, 316-214-4021.
He was playing basketball with a friend and hit 13 straight three-pointers. Todd Cook.
That's right, I did. And now I have my own basketball goal outside of my house, and I plan on breaking that record someday. Someday. Well, maybe not. All right, let's talk about a little TV. We got Skyline on the Nose coming up with a song called Drowning. You don't want to miss that. And a little story about a convenience store that I stopped at yesterday. You don't want to miss that story. That'll be at the end of the show. Let's talk TV now. TV creators take a lot of liberties, and the writers take a lot of liberties that I don't really understand how they get away with it. But they have for a long time, and I'm sure they will continue to do so in the future. But one of those weird liberties that they take is they will introduce a character as if the character has been there all along, but they would just introduce them just out of the blue, out of thin air. They'll introduce this character. And I'll have to give you some examples. A TV show that I watched a lot of growing up was Little House on the Prairie. I'm sure most of you out there are familiar with that show. Probably not as familiar with it as I am, because I watched a lot of episodes of that. Every episode of that show I've seen multiple times, I'm sure. And they would do this a lot in Little House on the Prairie. They would just introduce a character. Like there'd be this episode where Laura has a friend who has a limp, and she's best friends with this girl. So she's had time to build up a relationship with this girl. Everybody in town knows this girl, but we've never seen her before on an episode. She wasn't on the previous episode. She was never on an episode before. She just all of a sudden shows up, Laura's best friend, and she's got a limp. And I think there was one where there was a kid that stuttered. And it was the same thing. It's like everybody knew who this kid was. Everybody was friends with this kid. But he had never been on the show until that episode. They just throw him in there. And they get away with this all the time. But the best example on the Little House on the Prairie is, I don't think you even have to know this episode to appreciate this little story. They had one episode where they introduced this old lady. Her name was Kezia. And Kezia was a little insane, a little senile. She lived in the middle of town in I was going to say a house, but not even a house. It was just, there was a foundation there, and I think maybe one wall. It was like this broken down, maybe burnt out old house. And she lived there she had a rocking chair and a little dog that she had. And this is not out in the woods somewhere or on the outskirts of town. This is right in the center of town, right out in front of the Mercantile. And we never seen her before until this episode. And I've seen Laura and Charles and Mary and Albert and Dr. Baker and everybody in that on that show have walked through that part of town, and the cameras followed them, and that house was never there. This foundation and this crazy lady was never there. And then suddenly this episode, there she was. And she'd been there for a while. She'd been there for quite a while because everybody knew that she was there. Everybody knew her name. Laura and Mary, I think, had a little relationship with her. Maybe it was Laura and Albert had a little relationship with her, knew who she was, and they weren't really that scared of her. Everybody else was kind of scared of her. But she just appeared out of nowhere. There she was. Good old Kezia, living right in the middle of town. And again, not on the outskirts of town, not up on a hill somewhere, not somewhere where you would not know that she was there unless you sought her out. She was right in the middle of town. Never appeared before, in an episode before that. Just suddenly she's there, and then you never see her again after that episode. She was there for one episode. It's the strangest thing. I don't know how they do that. And you think about it, it's pretty bizarre. Another good one that I like to tell, and this is a little, I shouldn't say as obscure. It wasn't as obvious, but it still was something. On The Cosby Show, in the first season, maybe the first two seasons, the Cosbys had 4 kids. They had Denise, who was the oldest. They had Theo. Then they had Vanessa, and they had little Rudy. Those 4. And then suddenly, like the next season, they have another daughter who's even older than Denise, the oldest daughter, Sandra. Now, you might say, well, Sandra was away in college, so you never saw her, or you never, they never went and visited her, they never talked about her, so you didn't know that she existed, but she did. No. Contraire. There's an episode where Dr. Huxtable and his wife are getting ready for bed after a long, frustrating day dealing with the kids. And Mrs. Huxtable, Claire, looks over at him and says, "Why do we only have 4 kids? Or why do we have 4 kids?" And he says, "Because we did not want 5. But then suddenly Sandra appears in the next season, and they do have 5 kids. Now, how do they do that? I was listening to a podcast, and they were kind of talking about some of this stuff on different TV shows, how different characters would get switched out, and they wouldn't even explain it or anything. I guess the Partridge Family originally had a drummer, the little brown-haired boy drummer, and then in the next season, it was a little blonde-haired boy, totally different kid, and nobody, it doesn't seem to bother anybody. It seemed like somebody in the writer's room, the producers would be having a meeting saying, okay, if we're going to introduce this character, we got to have some kind of a backstory about why this character wasn't there before, or why the characters switched. But they just don't. They just do it. And it's a pretty funny thing. But yeah, good old Little House on the Prairie and even the Cosby Show. Why do we have 4 kids? Because we didn't want 5. And then next season, they have 5. I don't know how they make these decisions. I don't know how they make it work, but they make it work, and they've made millions of dollars, so I can't argue with them. All right, let's listen to a little music here. Here's a song by Scott Allen Knowles. I would say he's kind of from a local guy here from the Wichita area, but he travels a lot. He's been in South Korea, and he's been in, I think he's going to Australia now. So he's one of those guys that just takes him and his guitar and just goes anywhere he can and just plays music and does a very good job. And this song is by Scott Allen Knowles. It's called Drowning on the Todd Cook Show.
Too late, I failure to launch once again. You're holding too close, you can't let it go. Doubting is what does you in. Doesn't it feel like you're drowning, reaching and gasping for air? Doesn't it feel like you're drowning in you? You don't care. Saying goodbye, it's not your strongest strength. You figure it out, it's too late for now. I know that I don't like to wait. Doesn't it feel like you're drowning, reaching and gasping for air? Doesn't it feel like you're drowning in you? You don't care. Doesn't it feel like you're drowning, reaching and gasping for air? Doesn't it feel like you're drowning in you? You don't care. You don't care. Now you don't. Don't take it too bad. Memories we had can never be replaced. So dry your eyes where the waters they rise. Fill up the empty space. Doesn't it feel like you're drowning, reaching and gasping for air? Doesn't it feel like you're drowning in you? You don't care. Doesn't it feel like you're drowning, reaching and gasping for air? Doesn't it feel like you're drowning in you? You don't care.
That is Scott Allen Knowles with Drowning. Look Scott Allen Knowles up online, scottallenknowles.com. Allen is Allan. Knowles is Knost. And that song was brought to you by Morris Glass and Service, the Morris Glass Company. This guy came to our house and did a great repair for us on our sliding glass door. I'd highly recommend him. Very professional, very courteous. Glass, mirrors, shower doors, tabletops, shelves, patio doors, storm windows. Anything you need along those lines, you need to call this guy, Morris Glass and Service. Area code 316-946-0745. That's for everybody in the Wichita, Kansas area. 316-946-0745. 0745. And with that, I'm going to take another short little break here, but when I come back, I got one more great story for you, so don't go away. I'll be back right after this.
It is 2014, folks, and computers have taken over the world. Well, not really, but they are everywhere. And if you're a business owner, you know how computers can enhance your ability to operate your business. But most likely, you're also familiar with how difficult it can be trying to manage your computer network. Are you having some trouble in the IT department and you need some help? Well, if you live in the Warsaw, Indiana area, you are in luck. Just get whacked. WACD can help. Just go to wacdllc.com and find out how. They can help with network installation, maintenance, security, and more. And they don't just help businesses, they can help anybody. WACD can even help with hardware and software sales and services. And believe it or not, they can help you with many issues even if you don't live anywhere near the Warsaw, Indiana area. As long as you have an internet connection, they can help you fix your computer or install new software remotely. They could even set you up with a brand new PC or Mac. So whether you're a business or an individual, get whacked today. WACDLLC.com. That's WACDLLC.com.
He has never watched one episode of The Sopranos, 24, or Lost. Todd Cook.
That is correct, and there is a list a mile long of television shows and movies that I have never seen that you would all be amazed about, because it seems everybody on the planet has seen these movies and TV shows, and I have not. Anyway, let's finish this show up with this last little story. And by the way, if you want to reach me, you can reach me at the Todd Cook Show at gmail.com, the Todd Cook Show at gmail.com. Send me an email there. Tell me what you think about the show. All right. I made a stop at a convenience store. I was in a neighborhood that I wouldn't normally stop at. I drive through this neighborhood quite a bit, but I don't really ever stop there. And it's on a really busy street here in Wichita, and it's not a residential area, at all. There are houses, a block away, little places where people live or whatever, but it's just a pretty busy little area. And I had to stop at this convenience store. It was on the way, and I didn't want to have to drive out of my way at all, so I've driven by it many times, so I figured I'd stop. And I go in there, and it's not a place I would ever stop at late at night, after dark for sure, but this was Saturday afternoon. It was probably 5 o'clock in the evening, somewhere around there. And, daylight, so why not? I stop there, I go inside, and not too bad of a place, kind of, nice little store there. But the one thing that struck me was I looked behind the counter, and on the wall are pictures of people. I thought maybe at first they were like, missing people, maybe missing kids or whatever, and they're trying to help out. Well, I start looking closer, and I see all these pictures, and it covers the whole wall behind the register. It's just covered with all these pictures, and I start seeing the word banned underneath all the pictures, or above the pictures, or across the pictures. Banned. And I realize what is happening here is they're getting customers that are coming in the store and are doing something, or for whatever reason, they have decided to ban these customers. And they have a camera there behind the counter that takes pictures of them when they're at the register, and even must have a camera outside somewhere, because some of the people that had been banned, their picture was taken outside the store, out by the parking lot there. And I'm looking around at some of these. I'm standing in line. They're having trouble with the credit card machine. So the guy that was ahead of me it took quite a while. It seemed like 5 minutes of them trying to figure something out, rebooting the computer or whatever it took. The guy went to the back room and came back with another little swiper thing and plugged it in and started working like that. But as I'm standing there waiting, I'm looking around at all these pictures, and needless to say, they're not all the best looking folks. Apparently everybody that got banned from this little convenience store, none of them were that good looking. And one guy in particular, his picture, now this is a picture that was taken from the store, from the camera behind the counter, of this guy who was standing just about exactly where I was at that moment, except for I'm standing there with a pair of pants and a shirt, and I believe like even a jacket. And this guy, however, in the picture was standing there in that same spot that I was. Who knows? A month, a year ago, it could have been yesterday for all I know. He's standing there in the picture, nothing on but a pair of shorts and an open beer can in his hand, and the word "banned" underneath there. And I thought, okay, I understand that. Somebody comes into your store without proper clothing on and an open beer can, and you probably don't want that guy coming back. Maybe that wasn't the first time. Maybe he's come in that store multiple times looking like that and acting that way, and then eventually got banned. I don't know. Maybe the store, they're pretty tolerant of people like that. So it just makes me wonder if it wasn't just the first time he came in. Maybe he came in multiple times. But all over the wall, banned, banned, banned. And another one that caught my eye, it had just a picture of a lady, and like she was coming in the store. And I looked. I was like, I can't tell. She's properly dressed. I don't see her holding a beer can or anything. I wonder why they banned her. And as I'm looking, I read down underneath where it says banned. It says, for dumping diapers. Now, I don't know what that means. Apparently, she brought some diapers either into the store, or maybe she dumped them in a wastebasket outside the store, and maybe she does it a lot. Maybe she doesn't have a trash can at home. I don't know. But for some reason, she was coming to the store, and she got banned for dumping diapers. Of all the things to get banned for, dumping diapers. And I wish I could remember some of the other ones, why they're in there. I think one was, like a stolen credit card or something, whatever the case might be. But, yeah, banned for dumping diapers and banned for public intoxication. And actually, that's all that said for the other guy, I think, was banned or it said open container and public intoxication. And I thought, well, I guess the shirt, not having a shirt on didn't bother him as much. That seems kind of, they have a sign on the front door, like most stores, I imagine. It says no shoes, no shirt, no service. But, yeah. And I wonder about these people before they go to the store. This guy obviously was drunk or whatever, and he's got his shorts on, and he starts walking out the door, and somebody says, hey, Bob, where are you going? I'm going to go down to the store over here. I'll be right back. And somebody said, oh, no, get back here. Grab him by the arm and make him come back in and sit down. But apparently, maybe he lives by himself. Maybe nobody saw him or whatever. And he just, I don't know if he walked or drove or whatever. But, banned. Public walking into a convenience store with an open can of beer and no shirt on. Poor guy got banned. Imagine that. And the other lady dumping diapers. I still am not sure what all that entails. I don't know why she would take her diapers somewhere else and dump them. It seemed like you could find if you don't like them in your house or something, you could find a dumpster somewhere. But anyway, like I said, that's one of those stores that I would not go into after dark. And now that I've been in there, I don't think I'll go in there when it's daylight anymore either. If they got that many creepy people coming into their store getting banned, it's not the type of store I want to go into often. All right, that's the end of this episode, everybody. Thank you very much for listening. I don't know when my next episode will be up, but please come back and check it out again. And whenever that show is up, you can listen to it at my YouTube channel, which is probably where you're at right now, youtube.com/The Todd Cook Show. And that's all. Until next time, folks, I'll talk. You listen.